The Fallout series has its fair share of unique-looking creatures. It always has. One of the things that makes the game stand out amongst its contemporaries. The mutated and radiated fauna of the post-war is one of the biggest draws to the series for a lot of people. Fallout takes the time to flesh out even the smallest of creatures with lore and history, and the subject of this video is no different. A monster that hasn't seen much light since the classic days of Fallout has just popped back up in Appalachia with the Wastelanders update of Fallout 76. Floaters. Another type of monster you should look out for are the monsters that don't like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Fallout content. Those are the worst monsters of all. Floaters started life in an interesting way. The brainchild of Jason Anderson, a game artist and designer that worked on Fallout and Fallout 2, leaving Interplay during the development of the latter and going on to found Troika Games with fellow developers Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky. During the early stages of design on the floaters, Anderson used a pornographic image for its mouth, giving it the nickname the Sphincter Monster during development. And it's not hard to see why it would be named that even after the model was finalized. We would first see floaters in the original Fallout. These creatures were an offshoot experiment from Westech on the common flatworm from 2075. Floaters can typically be found within Unity patrols and with their long-term allies Centaurs, both seemingly having a pet-like relationship with supermutants. After the fall of the Master, floaters would swarm Central Valley, making life troublesome for anyone in the area. Floaters are quite large, comfortably standing as tall as the average human. The floaters are named after the flotation sacs that surround their mouth, which allows them to hover in the air. Floaters still use their tail for quick travel, slithering towards a target at pretty fantastic speeds. These creatures use a protruding maw to attack their prey, but lack the critical thinking to do much more than swarm their victims. This, mixed with how combustible their float sacs are, make exploiting them relatively easy. The pouches are highly flammable, so any energy-based or flame-based weapon will quickly set these monsters ablaze. Though we wouldn't see floaters in any official capacity until the Wastelanders update of Fallout 76, they were considered many times throughout the past games of the series. The worms would make an appearance in the Art of Fallout 3 book, which showcased concept art for Fallout 3, with 3 different variants being shown: the Lamprey Floater, the Man of War Tendril Floater, and the Needletooth Floater. These designs seemingly inspired by jellyfish, at least in namesake. Fallout New Vegas developers also entertained the idea of adding floaters to their game, with remnants still in the game to this day, appearing as centaur models when spawned into the game world. Floaters ultimately proved far too complicated to animate with the deadline given. Josh Sawyer, Fallout New Vegas project lead, had this to say about floaters and why they were cut from his game. "I think floaters are cool critters in the Fallout universe, but like centaurs, they have really weird bodies that require unique animation rigs. From an animation perspective, limbless flying things tend to be really cheap. Human-like bipeds are cheap, quadrupeds aren't too bad. Once you start getting into creatures with multiple heads, snake bodies, tentacles, etc., they get really expensive. If I recall correctly, we talked about having floaters, but we just didn't have the animation time for them." We would finally see floaters return to the series in the first trailer released for the Wastelanders update for Fallout 76. Just some quick cuts of the beasts and actions against a player. Though their appearances changed, many fans of the classic games identified them immediately. The floaters found in Appalachia, 25 years after the Great War, have a very different physical appearance than the floaters we saw in the first 2 games in the series, almost as if they implemented features that just weren't possible in the games released in the 90s. Floaters now have elemental properties. Aside from these changes, much of the lore remains the same, and the creatures behave similarly to the previous iterations. The floaters in Appalachia feature a swollen head with a bunch of eyes spread across its face. This is where the flotation sac lies with these versions of the beasts. The creatures now glow with the color depending on what variant they are. Floaters have an impressive set of jaws that open and close every which way. This portal you could call a mouth houses a pretty remarkable tongue that is easily as long as the body of the creature itself. Besides the main tentacles, the worms possess 2 vestigial limbs that look like arms. They seem to be good for nothing more than taking pathetic swipes at prey. Floaters come with a new death animation as well, letting out a pain-filled scream, then exploding shortly after. Floaters can be a good source of resources, dropping sacks that can be scrapped for fuel and adhesive. And the explosion does leave behind some pus that can continue to harm players who linger, so quickly looting and leaving the area is advised. Appalachia is home to 3 distinct floater variants: Flamers, Freezers, and Gnashers. The first 2 fellows are pretty obvious based on their names. Flamers use fire-based attacks and are often orange and red in color with vertical slits for pupils. It is best to keep distant from all floaters, but Flamers have such a high surrounding temperature that anything that comes close to it burst into flames. Their freezer counterparts sport horizontal slits for eyes and come in blue color tones. These variants, of course, favor cryogenic attacks, freezing their prey. The pus they shoot can cause significant damage to tech, specifically fusion cores, due to its sub-zero temperature. The Gnashers, green in color, use their discharge as corrosive acid with biting attacks. This version of Floater has cross-shaped eyes and cannot utilize ranged attacks, making it even more logical to keep your distance. Though some disagree with the evolution of these creatures, I personally like what floaters have become. Adding these types of variants gives them a bit more personality than the generic flatworms we saw in the classic Fallout games. Regardless of how you feel about the changes made to the mutated worms, it is great to see more throwbacks to the classic games taking shape. Though their journey has been riddled with retcons and being scrapped time and time again, they finally have a home in the Fallout universe again. Back, and better than ever. Thank you for checking out my video about floaters. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe for more Fallout content, and that really helps the channel out a lot. You know what helps the channel out even more? My beautiful patrons and YouTube channel members. Your continued support helps so much, and I am so grateful to be in the position I am in. Special shout out to the biggest supporters: Kim Jong-un, Mark Train, Hackerman, Irwin, Fireflare, Edgy, Primarch Mustard, and Corbin King. You guys are so amazing. Thank you so much. Another thing I want to say before I end the video is thank you to those of you who have been donating and super chatting on the streams. 3 people come to mind the most: Kim, Mark Train, and Jules. Others have contributed in significant ways, but you guys support me so much, and I just don't feel worthy. So thank you. If you want to see your name in these credits, get a shout out at the end of the videos, check out the Patreon and YouTube channel member links in the description below, and support the channel more directly. If you want, you can come argue with us at the Discord, which is also in the description. That's where all the action happens. Thanks again for watching. I will catch you on the next one. It has been Mantis.
I gotta testify. Come up in the spot looking extra fly. For the day you die, you gon' touch the sky. You gon' touch the sky, baby girl. Testify. Come up in the spot looking extra fly. For the day you die.